Hello, geometers. This is Ms. Backfish, just getting the focus right on my dot cam. And I'm here to show you how to construct an angle bisector, specifically using one of these, which is called a safety compass. You can see the safety right there. And, I know this kind of looks like, oh, safety as in I'm not going to have a sharp point. But really, these are very good compasses. These are have a lot of advantages, I think, over the traditional compass. And I would actually rather use one of these. I'm going to show you how to do an angle bisector with this. And the first thing I want to mention is first of all, this is a geometric construction. We're not just drawing it. Remember, construction uses a compass and a straight edge. This has both. It has a compass, and here's my straight edge. The next thing I want to point out is if you're watching this video, you may have been looking at copying an angle, copying a segment, some other constructions we do. Keep in mind on this one, we're not going to be copying this angle and drawing some other angle over here. We're going to be working on this angle itself. We're going to be doing an angle bisector for this angle. And let's remember that an angle bisector is like, I'll use this pencil. It's like a straight object, could be a line or a ray or a segment that goes right down through exactly the middle of the angle so that the measure of this side and the measure of this side, it basically creates two new smaller angles that are congruent, equal measure on both sides of it. So that is where we're going, and we can't just draw it. We have to actually construct it using the constructions process. So here's how I'm going to start. First, I'm going to move that arrow. There we go. I'm going to start by taking my metal brad that is kind of like the point or tip of this compass, and I'm going to put it over my vertex, which I have labeled V. Okay. Actually, before I go any further, let me point out, remember that on an angle, your two sides keep going forever. So when you are constructing an angle bisector, it really does not matter how long the two sides are. That measurement is completely irrelevant. So if you need to take your straight edge and you have a short side of an angle and you want to extend that a little bit longer, you can absolutely do that without affecting anything. Okay, so you can make the sides of your angle a little longer if it helps what we're trying to do, and it might. So just to let you know that, depends on the angle you've been given, but you do have to start with an angle. So usually you've been given an angle and you're looking at this angle and you're going to take your compass tip and put it over the vertex. Okay, first step is I'm going to draw one arc that goes across both sides of the angle, and I don't care where it goes across both sides of the angle. And in this case, which is kind of unusual, I don't even have to remember which hole I use. So I'm just going to do that. All right, there we have it. So yours should look like mine now. I should have my angle and then some little dots over here, sorry, an arc that goes across both sides of the angle. And it could be here, it could have been out here. It doesn't have to be in this specific place or anything like that. Now, when my arc crosses both sides of the angle, it intersects both sides at a point. So there's a point here where the arc crosses one side and a point here where the arc intersects the other side. Those points are going to be very important because I'm going to use those to draw some more arcs. So first off, I'm going to take my center here and I'm going to put it right over one of those 2 points. It really doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm starting with this one. Okay, so I can see my point right through that center hole. I'm going to hold the white part of this compass still, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an arc out here. I just want to pick any hole that's going to put it somewhere out here in the middle or in the interior of the angle. I think I'm going to use, and I am going to have to remember which hole I use. So I'm going to pick a hole that's easy to remember. How about this one right here to the left of W? You can use any hole you want. Your angle will be different from mine. Okay, so I used that hole to the left of W with this side of the angle. Remember, this is where my original arc intercepted one side of the angle, or intersected, excuse me, one side of the angle. And then I used hole W. So now I'm going to take the center here and I'm going to move to the other point where that original arc intersected the other side of the angle. So that goes right over here now. And I'm going to draw the same size arc. And what that means to us, same size arc means same hole for your pen or pencil tip. Now, how far out do you need to draw it? You need to just draw it far enough or big enough or, a long enough arc that this is exactly what happens for you, that they intersect, kind of like a curved X. That's what you're looking to get, a curved X where this part of the X is the same distance away from this side as this part is from this side, from this particular point, okay? And then right there in the middle of your curved X, that is a point that is going to be a point on your angle bisector. So I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm going to connect. I'm going to draw a line or ray that goes through the vertex of the original angle and through that point where those last two arcs met. So this is my angle bisector with this right here, angle bisector. All right, and how do we mark an angle bisector? Well, usually we mark it by putting matching congruence little arcs on either side to say that this angle over here is the same as this angle over here. They are congruent, they are the same measure. Fun fact, the angle bisector theorem tells us, and this really doesn't have anything to do with the construction, but the angle bisector theorem tells us that every point on this angle bisector is the same distance away from this side of the angle and from this side of the angle. All right, and that's really why we had to have an arc the same distance away from this point over here and the same distance away from this point. So just a quick recap of how I did this. Step one was I did an arc, and the only requirement from that arc was that it crosses both sides of my angle. This is the original angle. Okay, and I'm actually going to color that original angle green for you so that you can make sure you realize what was originally there. So I did one arc that crosses both sides. I don't have to remember how big it is, I just have to cross both sides. Then I take, this is the new center of a new arc I'm going to draw on one side, and then I'll also draw an arc from this side. So I'm going to do two more arcs. These two have to be the same size and they have to cross somewhere in the interior of the original angle. So I did this, and then I remembered which hole I used and I moved over here and I did this and they crossed. And the last step was to look at that point where they crossed and connect it back to the vertex of the original angle, the one that's highlighted in green. And that becomes my angle bisector, which I will highlight in pink, although it is labeled, isn't it? So this is my angle bisector. There we go. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it helped, and I will see you next time.